Hey guys, and welcome to this leftover culture review snippet series of videos where I talk about the best video camera in the world. Okay, it's a little bit hard to substantiate that, but I kind of wanted to go behind the scenes here at the leftover culture review, talk about the gear, the equipment, and how we put an episode together. And I thought I'd start off with the camera that I use to film with. I get a lot of compliments right here on the channel itself about the look, the feel, the atmosphere of the leftover culture review, as well as like over on Facebook, and I do really appreciate it. Oddpod recently, the YouTube channel, the guy who runs that, Dan, posted a picture of his camera setup. I posted one back of mine and we got into like a quick discussion around like camera tech and what we were trying to do with our different setups, and he was talking about upgrading cameras. And it's a question that I do get from a lot of friends and family members as well, is what's the best camera for me? It's a really hard question to answer because I know what the best camera for me is, and I spend a lot of time looking at cameras. I really love technology for some reason. Without further ado, the Sony NEX VG20 is the camera that I film 95% of the leftover culture review with. This is the camera you guys get to look through when you're looking at me, including the lens that I use for the bulk of my reviews for the last 6 months. I've actually made a separate video all about the lens, so I will let myself explain the lens better in a different video, because the lens does really affect the look, the feel, what the camera essentially can do. And the lens is also another big reason why I got the Sony NEX VG20 when I did six years ago. It's an older camera. It's a Handycam. It does HD video. Well, I'm not going to do a full camera review. I don't think that's necessary. There's plenty of camera reviews from the time that this camera was released, and they're all pretty positive reviews. I think there's a real lack of people showing what the camera was really capable of achieving. Maybe after using it for 5 years, I've got a much better idea of, you know, what this camera can do, where it excels, where it doesn't particularly excel. People talk a lot about the 5.1 Dolby surround built-in microphone here, but I've never been a big fan of it. It doesn't sound clear enough for me. I use a Sennheiser microphone that I got during university, which is pretty much held together by Blu-Tack at this stage. But the Sony E-mount cameras, they came out a couple of years ago. I actually got the first of the first in the line of NEX cameras was the NEX 3 and the NEX 5. The NEX 5 has like it looks metal. The NEX 3 looked very plasticky. This one also did HD, whereas the NEX 3 did 720 video. But this is the camera that I had when I first started filming and recording for the leftover culture review all the way back in 2011. When I got my first full-time job making videos for a company. They wanted me to go to an event to film an event. I was doing interviews. I was actually getting to film and use my camera. I wanted a camera that looked good video-wise. I wanted a camera that could pull off really good video. DSLRs like the Canon were all the rage at that time, but they were big. I wanted a camera I knew that I would use, and I guess it always goes back to the best camera for you is the one that you are going to use however you are going to use it. I wanted a small camera that I knew that I would take out on the weekends. I could shove it in my pocket if I wanted to. Obviously there's a big lens on it now, but it came with 2 lenses, this one and a pancake lens. So I had that opportunity to experiment with different lenses, different like lengths, see the difference in the footage, even just understanding technically what those different lenses were capable of achieving. It was a big learning experience for me, hopping into like the interchangeable lens cameras. So the Sony NEX was a really good opportunity for me to do that. It's because I had this camera when I first started filming the leftover culture review videos that I upgraded to the NEX VG20. This camera has issues when you're filming yourself. The screen doesn't flip out, it just flips to there. So you can't look at yourself as you're recording. There is a HDMI out, but I never got like the external monitor for it. Sorry, lens cap fell off. I know how much that can bug people. It does have the HDMI out, so you could get an external monitor set up, theoretically, but the screen doesn't flip out and there's no microphone inputs. The internal audio on this camera is actually fairly decent. But I had this camera. The lenses for this one are interchangeable with the next VG20, and it's all the Sony E-mount system. The camera that I'm recording this right now on is the Sony a6-300. It is a 4K, it's a really nice camera again, Sony E-mount lens, and obviously it works. Like, I'm recording myself. I still always go back to this one in terms of workflow and simplicity, and that's really the point that I wanted to round out on. Is cameras are great to let you record things. It's not always about having the best camera, it's about having the best camera for you, and this camera it's easy to use, it's easy to record yourself with. The quality has been fantastic, especially as I've gotten better at lighting my scenes, at lighting the games room here, as I've been experimenting with different lenses and learning what different lenses can do. That's really been the big takeaway for me. Essentially, these are the same cameras internally. So the very first episode of the Leftover Culture Review, Vigilante, I've shown it off in the past. The very first episode that I filmed on this thing, essentially the video quality is just as good as my most recent episode that I filmed on this thing. The only difference is the lighting, the composition, the lens that I use. There's a lot of ways that I've become better at making video myself. It hasn't always been on the technology. And on that point, technology is great. It lets us achieve new, cool, fun things. But it really comes back to the person using it. And I remember being in university and I really wanted the Red Scarlett camera. Like, that was the buzz on campus at the time, was this new camera Red were bringing out. It wasn't gonna cost you $25,000, you could pick it up for 12. It sounded amazing, and Red cameras had a lot of prestige, they still do. But it's a very modular system, so you had to buy all the different attachments, the lens mounts, the battery packs, you had to buy the card readers and the hard drives to store all that footage on. Like, end of the day, like, you could afford one, but it's super expensive to actually buy it, put the whole kit together, and make like a workable camera system for your workflow. And workflow is a really big part of it too. Then you need to have the computer that can process raw footage files, the hard drive space to store all the raw footage files. For these Leftover Culture Review videos that I record, when I'm trying to record one a week at the moment, having a camera that doesn't do 4K, 6K, 8K video, it's fine. It's like, what, 22 megabits per second encoding on this thing. It's a 16 megapixel sensor. The quality for video is really, I think it works really well. I think it's easy to use. It doesn't require immense amounts of horsepower to put together a 15-20 minute video. So the next VG20, it's the camera that I've been using. It's a camera that I still recommend to people who do want to have a cheap alternative. And look, the next 5, you can pick these things up for a couple of $100, and sure, they're expensive, they're outdated. There's probably better cameras that are older in that price bracket that would suit you better. But if you aren't like hooking up XLR inputs, even if you just record the audio off your phone and use the footage from this thing, you can still get some really, really solid results. I think it's a really exciting time to be creating content and putting stuff out there and getting your face out there and practicing your skills in lighting, presentation, composition of your shots, how you want to set up the look, the feel, the ambience, the aesthetic of your channels, your videos, your episodes, your shows. Now's a good time to be exploring all that, because you have so many really varied options in terms of cameras, brands, lenses. So don't feel like you have to have the best of the best. It's really not necessary. It really comes down to your own, what you want to achieve with it. I could have had a big DSLR camera as well. My partner went out to buy me my camera, and I said that I was either looking at this one or the Canon, I think like the 500D, the 550D here in Australia. I was looking at the Canon cameras as well as this one. We ended up going, well, she bought it, but we had a quick discussion in the morning, and we ended up going with this one because it's something that she could have even used if she wants. I've lent this one out to friends and family who just want to borrow a half-decent camera with a half-decent lens. Another reason why the next VG20 made sense when I was looking at doing more with video was because this kit lens was incredible. It's currently recording me now, so I'll talk more about lenses in another video. I don't want this getting too long, but I guess one example that I did want to like finish this video on was the sports cars, right? So like Ferraris, Maseratis. I had a boss, director of a company, who had like a really fast sports car. I think it was like the Audi racing version of one of their sports cars, but it cost a lot of money. A lot of maintenance. Every time you had to take it into the mechanics, it was like a special service fee because it was all these custom built specialty parts. It was a really expensive, really fast, really good at what it did. It carred really well. It was a great car. Expensive to run, expensive to maintain, expensive to buy. And if you're just like nipping down to the shops to buy groceries, or you're going stuck in peak hour traffic for, you know, a couple of hours every day, then it's not a practical car to be driving, especially in terms of the cost it requires to keep it on the road. I think you can apply that metaphor to basically anything in life, but I try and apply it with cameras to friends and family who ask me what I think. I think everyone's got certain needs and requirements. You need to find the camera that ticks all your boxes, but you don't need to have the best of the best. You don't need to have a big fat DSLR to go on holidays with anymore. Your iPhone will be able to take all the photos and footage you really need. If you need to have a zoom, then look at cameras that have good zoom lenses. If you want to play with different lenses and have that flexibility with an interchangeable lens system, then absolutely. But there's also cameras out there that don't require having extra lenses. Sony, again, I look at Sony cameras a lot. I'm just a lot more familiar with the system, obviously. But there's cameras out there that don't have interchangeable lenses, but they still do really, really nice photos, videos. They still have the really big sensors in them. You can get some really awesome results. You can get some really awesome results with a couple of $100. Like when I bought it, this camera wasn't cheap. Over $2,000 with the kit lens, but I'm still using it. I guess that's the point. Like, I did spend a lot of money at the time, but I was getting a camera that had flip out screens, microphone ports. It had the E-mount system that I've continued to use, and I've got a couple of lenses for now. And in terms of workflow, it just works really well. Pop out the SD card, plug it in my computer, drag the footage across. It's not too heavy or dense, it's not raw, it doesn't take much color correcting. It's easy. It's easy, straightforward, and it helps me make videos faster. It doesn't always have to be about quality. Quality's important, but yeah, you can do a lot with what you've got, or by learning how to use what you've got better. Or if you're still like clunking around the old Sony Handycams, then yeah, maybe it's time to move on from Digital 8. Hey, so I wanted to finish off this review by actually using the next VG20 in a mirror just to show it off a little bit, give you an idea of the look, the feel. I recorded this video, funnily enough, after talking about not needing expensive cameras or new upgrades all the time. I do have a new camera, the A6-300. It is a 4K Sony camera, and here it is with the kit lens that came with the next VG20. This is the Sony 18-200mm zoom lens. Fantastic zoom, really crisp images. It's really good for like stock video. I use it for a lot of like stock video stuff. If I'm even just out and about, it's small enough to chuck in like a bag or even your back pocket with the with a smaller lens on it, obviously. But it's a good camera. It's very similar to like why I bought the Nex 5 in the first place. Like, it's small enough, you can take it everywhere, you can use it. It does do really good slow motion video. It also has the microphone input. The only thing missing is the screen that can swivel. In saying that, there's an app you can get on your phone which I use to record myself. Now, the reason I don't use it for the leftover culture review videos necessarily is that it's a lot quicker to overheat, especially if you are using it in 4K, which I wouldn't use it in 4K because these are YouTube videos. They're supposed to be fun. I don't need to be putting all that time, effort, energy, resources into making these reviews and these videos 4K. I've experimented with it in the past, but it has been a really like a difficult, longer process, workflow to get right. So I haven't shadow on my face. So I haven't used 4K extensively here on the Leftover Culture Review, but when it comes to things like doing stock video or doing events or doing some pickup shots here and there, occasionally, yeah, I'll use 4K for that. When I'm doing like interviews, when I'm doing corporate stuff, when I'm doing my videography for work, then I will use my much nicer, much heavier and much more expensive 4K Sony a6300. But like I said, it's the camera that you have for the job, and the next VG20 has been doing a really good job putting together the Leftover Culture Review series of videos. It doesn't take up much memory card space, doesn't get too hot, really good ergonomic design, and everything works really well for what I use it for. So thank you so much for indulging me on my very quick, actually it's probably a very long one now, but very informal tech review video. I'd love to know what sort of cameras you guys are using to get the sort of results that you do as well. If you've got a camera that you really love and really stick to and stand by, let me know in the comments. I'd love to check out your channel and see the results you're getting with your cameras. This is a quick gear review. I've got one coming up on the lens specifically you can check out next. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I will catch you guys for more Leftover Culture. Cheers. Cheers.